Hello guys and welcome back to the show. In this video tutorial we're looking at Django, what Django is, how to even set up Django to build your first application using Python. If you know a bit about Python, you know that they've got like different frameworks. They've got frameworks like Flask, they've got Tornado, they've got Django as well. So Flask is a micro framework for building application. With Flask, you need to build everything from scratch by yourself. You've been given the freedom to, build everything that you want. But with Django, you get a helping hand. It's like Ruby on Rails. It comes with a lot of helpers that will help you get started and build your application really fast. So in this tutorial, we'll be looking at how to set up Django and write your first hello world using Django. And we can go on to look at some of the advanced stuff in Django. So to get started, I'll take you through the steps on how to get Django on your machine and write your first hello world, okay? If I do this, there's no module named Django. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a virtual environment, as you all know, and then inside of the virtual environment, I will install Django and use Django to build application. How we do this is virtual env Python 3 venv. So I'm creating a virtual environment. Again, virtual environment is basically a world that you create, and inside of the world, you can have all the dependencies that you need to create or build an application that you would like to use. So I've created a virtual environment. As you can see, I have venv. What I need to now do is activate the virtual environment. So I'll say source venv bin and then activate. So I can now install Django into this environment and use Django. So I'll come over here, copy this, right? Django admin start project my site. That's what I'm gonna call the project, okay? Now I can say Django admin start project my site. Now, if I say Django admin start project my site, it's not obviously not going to work because I still do not have Django on my machine. So I need to install Django. And how I do that is by saying pip install Django. All right. So I'll come over here and I'll do pip install Django. So now that that is done, if I do pip list, I've got Django over here, all right? I've got Django installed. So I can now run the command that I tried running earlier, but got an error. So I'll say Django admin start project my site. Okay, now if I do ls, as you can see, I've got my site over here, right? So the way that Django works is that it creates a project. So my site is the project, right? Let's say, imagine in your head that you want to create something, you want to create your own site. So that site is the project. And inside of the site, you have different apps, different components, which will make up your site. That's how Django works. So you have my site, which is the bigger picture. And inside of the my site, you can have like the different components that you can add together to create your site. So what we're going to do is to cd into my site like so. As you can see, I've got manage.py over here and I've got my site over here. So what I'm going to do now is to open this in Visual Studio Code and then we can start with the project. I've got settings.py which contains all the settings that I need for my application for the project. I've got urls.py which currently has just admin and I've got manage.py, all right, which lets us work with Django in the terminal. If I run Python manage.py run server, so if I run Python manage.py run server like so, it says that started server at this URL. So I can copy this URL, come over here and then enter. They've got Django and nothing much. So what we're going to do now is to write hello world in Django using Django. Make it simple and then we can go into details later on. So how Django works again is that you have app, right, inside of the project. So what we're going to do now is to create our first app. We're going to create our first app inside of the Django application called hello world app. Okay, and inside of that, you create the necessary templates and everything that we need to write a simple hello world. To do this, I will turn off the server and copy this right here. I'll come over here and I will say hello world. Okay. Now, if I come back here, As you can see, I've got hello world over here, which contains migrations, it contains an init.py, it contains admin.py, apps.py, models.py, test.py, and views.py. So what we're going to do now is to let the Django project be aware of this hello world app that we've created. So I will click on this, right? Open settings.py, and I'll tell Django inside of the installed apps, which is the different apps that will make up your project or your site. I'll come over here and I'll say that hello world. So hello world. So I'm selling the app application, the installed app is that if you go to hello world and you go to apps like so, right? So if you go to hello world directory, or if you go to the hello world app and you go to apps here, you find this hello world config. So apps like so dot hello world config like so. Then I'll have this over here. So to write your first hello world, now that we've added these hello world apps.hello world config to the installed apps, what we need to now do is to write the first hello world. How do we write this? We write this using views. Okay? So Django has two main types of writing views. There's the class-based views and there is the normal views using functions. I will write an example, or I will make an example using the normal functions to write views, and I also make an example using the class-based views to write views. The difference between the class-based views and the normal functions is that if you use function-based views, you need to write the code all by yourself. But if you use the class-based views, it's like inheriting from code that has been written by the people who developed Django, so you don't have to write a lot of code when you use class-based views. So I'll say define hello world. That is the first function view that I want to write. This view or this method will take request as a parameter, okay? And then return what I would like to return is HTTP response, all right? So I'll say from Django.http import HTTP response, right? Then I can say the HTTP response hello world, like so. That is the simplest way to write hello world using Django. So now that I've written this, I need to tell Django how can the user basically see this hello world? Where should the user go in my application to see this hello world? For instance, if I click on this, right? If someone goes to this URL, right? The person sees this Google page, right? So what I now need to tell my application is something similar that, okay, if someone goes to this endpoint or someone goes to this route, I want you to show the person hello world. So I will come to my application, right? And create something called urls.py. So inside of hello world, I'll create urls.py. I'll come over here, right? And then copy from Django the URLs, import path. So I'll go in here and I'll copy from Django the URLs, import path. Okay? Then I'll come back here again and then copy this right here. I've got admin, which I'm going to change right now to nothing. Okay? And what I'm going to say over here is that from, I can say dot, which means from hello world, right? But let's be explicit and say from hello world dot views import. And what do I want to import? I would like to import hello world. Okay? And I'm saying that I want hello world and the name will be home, like so. So I have this right here for the app, right? For the Hello World app. Now I need to tell the main application, the main project URLs, I need to let that main project URL know about this URL. So I can go to the main project, which is my site. And I can say that from Django.urls path, I need something called include, like so. And I'll say path empty, like so, include. And what do I want to include? I would like to include the hello world app urls.py. So I'll say include hello world.urls. Let's try and see if everything worked, and I'll come back and explain what is just happening over here. I'll come back here and run python manage.py, run server. This will start the server. Then I'll copy this URL and then hit. As you can see, I have hello world over here. So what just happened? So basically what is happening is that when I go to this URL, right? When I hit this, when I go to this endpoint, what Django does is that Django says, okay, I have a certain URL, but there is nothing after. You see how they've got admin here, but this URL has got nothing, right? Where can I find this URL? And Django sees hello world, the URLs, which has nothing over here, right? So it goes to the hello world, the URLs. So if I go to app, URLs, hello world, the URLs, and it says hello world, the URLs, the path, which has nothing, is this function over here. So it goes to this method over here, and then it returns hello world. So that is how Django does, the URL routing, and we have our first hello world application using Django. The question is, if you want to build big application, you cannot have this. You would like to write like HTML, right? You would like to add templates to your application. That's what we're going to look at in the next video. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.